even the president, with the current implementation of free SHS, at a point in time, you need to review a policy and see if you are meeting the targets or not.
That is the position of the new patriotic party and of its president, Nana Adodankwa Akufo-Addo. No review today, no review tomorrow, no cancellation.
After years of completely ruling out any conversation about reviewing free SHS, President Akufo-Addo now says he is open to having a conversation about reviewing the policy and general access to education.
I subscribe very strongly to the possibility that when the minister is examining the policy, because if we're going to have a serious discussion, it hasn't to be manufactured.
Also in this bulletin tonight, NADMO cited by Auditor General for recruiting employees without required education certificate and placing them in higher ranks, leading to a loss of almost 500,000 cedis. As farmers in Western cut down cocoa trees, citing a lack of support from the regulator, Auditor General Johnson Ekwuamasi reveals cocoa board loans have now reached a distressing level of 12.3 billion cedis. Now, cocoa is Ghana's second largest foreign exchange earner, with Ghana being the second largest producer of the produce after Cote d'Ivoire. However, despite the monies we get from the sector, Ghana borrows annually to buy cocoa beans from farmers. This has resulted in Ghana Cocoa Board having a huge loan portfolio totaling 12.3 billion cedis. This was reviewed in the 2021 Auditor General's report. The Auditor General is charging Cocoa Board to cut back on this practice of borrowing to buy cocoa every year because of the swelling indebtedness. My colleague Kweku Asante joins me on Zoom with details of the Auditor General's findings. Now, Kweku, what does the report say?
So the report says that about 12 billion cedis is what Cocoa Board has currently on its loan books at the end of the 2019-2020 financial year. So the Auditor General has been urging management to deploy and implement some very effective plans and strategies that will lead to the reduction of the Cocoa Board's indebtedness within the long and medium term. We know that government, as at 30th September 2020, 2 years ago, owed Cocoa Board about 2 billion Ghana cedis, and this was because of the supply of cocoa beans to the Genitech International Corporation. Government also, its support on the producer price of cocoa has been said to be in excess of the import duties that are paid by the board of GIC on cocoa beans exported. So the Auditor General is currently recommending that the board should continue to engage the Ministry of Finance in terms of settlement of this debt base.
Thank you very much. That's my colleague Kweku Asante with the details there. Now, two bodies affected by the financial situation of Ghana Cocoa Board are the cocoa farmers and the cocoa buying companies. Joining us for more on the debt situation of Cocoa Board is Felix, who is a cocoa buyer, and Nana Obadie, who is president of the Concerned Cocoa Farmers Association. Let me start with you, Felix. What's the current situation in terms of getting paid for your services as a cocoa buyer? Hello, Felix.
Hello.
I'm trying to find out from you what the current situation is in terms of you as a buyer getting paid for the cocoa you buy for Cocoa Board.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we have a dire situation at hand. In that, as at May, the last time Cocoa Board made payment to any LBC was, I think, in May. And some, even as far as March, have not been paid. And that is affecting business seriously. It doesn't make it easy for the LBCs to thrive. It's affecting profitability, it's affecting growth, it's affecting employment, it's affecting our partners who are transporters and other creditors for whom we have purchased items. That is a very serious situation for the LBC. It's also affecting cocoa buying. I can assure you that most companies didn't buy the live crop, not because there was no crop to buy, but because they had no money to buy the live crop. That is it.
Is it all down to the financial situation of Cocoa Board, or there are some factors that come to play here?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, it is the fact that the Cocoa Board owes most of these LBCs who need the money to recycle. Let me illustrate it. If you went for a loan to buy a bag of cocoa, and your repayment is delayed for up to 112 days, it means you have lost all your margin to interest on the loan you went for. And what do you use in paying your salaries and commissions and other operational expenditure costs? It becomes very difficult. And so, by and large, it is because Cocoa Board has challenges paying the LBC. That is why most of the companies are stalled.
So bringing that to your own experience, what has been your experience with having payment delayed due to Cocoa Board's financial situation?
And again?
Yeah, I'm asking for your own experience of having your payment delayed due to Cocoa Board's financial situation. What has been your experience like?
Well, occasionally, yes, there could be some delays, but not to this extent. Looking at it from May to now, if you delivered cocoa to Cocoa Board and Cocoa Board is supposed to reimburse you or pay for the cocoa you delivered, and you've not been paid, how do you continue doing business? Besides, we also looking at a situation where some of the LBCs went for foreign loans to run their businesses. And at the time they probably went for the loan, the CD to dollar ratio was about 6.9. And then you need to pay back at the end of the main crop season. The main crop season is ended, and when it ended, you have money in there, and your creditor is asking you to pay him. Even if you get back, you need to go and exchange the money at 10.2 now. So you can imagine the foreign exchange loss hanging on the necks of most LBCs who have people financing their activities or businesses financing their activities from the outside. It's a serious challenge. It's really a dire situation.
What do you make of the revelation then that Cocoa Board has a debt of 12 billion cedis?
Well, I can't explain that because I'm not in there. Sorry.
All right. But as a cocoa buyer, when you hear that Cocoa Board has a debt of 12 billion, what does that mean to you and the future of the sector?
It is scary. It is scary because, like I did say, because of Cocoa Board holding up on most of our payments, most of us LBCs were unable to do the live crop. The live crop is ending soon. Come 15th September, the live crop is over. We are expecting the main crop to begin. And I can tell you on authority that all stocks delivered to Cocoa Board for the live crop have not been paid. So how do you see going forward? What do you see going forward? Are you able to participate in the main crop? You need to buy equipment, tools of trade in preparation for the main crop. You have not been paid.
Okay.
How do you prepare adequately for the main crop? You need to reorient your staff, train, and pay your commission.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm grateful that you found time to join us. Let me bring in Farmer General Nana Obuade here. Nana, you are a farmer. As a cocoa farmer, how does the news about Cocoa Board's debt come to you?
Good evening, and then I would say pleasant evening also to all the cocoa farmers across the country. Those that have decided, they've made up their mind to cut up their cocoa trees to venture into rubber, I'm just telling them that they should hold on because there's something good news that is coming up. It is scary, as my brother Khalid just said, because how can Cocoa Board own 12.3 billion cedis? How come? You know, how did they spend the money, and how come they own that? You see, looking at the production or the cocoa business at the moment, I can boldly tell you that if care is not taken, something bad will happen. Why am I saying so? I'm saying all this because doing our tour, identification of community challenges, touring across the various cocoa growing areas, we realize that most of the cocoa farmers at the Bom PSO areas, Pristia, Huni Valley, are saying that they are no more interested in the cocoa again. They are going for rubber plantation because those that did the rubber for the past 1 and 2 years, their livelihood is being better. I mean, their lives is better than them. They've done cocoa for 30 years and still their life is as it is the same. When you go back to Western North region, it is the only place that I can boldly say that the church manager, that is Owusu Ansa, have done very well, that young man deserves an award, because when you go to that side, cocoa is doing very well there. The rehabilitation project have done well, not all because of Cocoa Board, but because of the workers or the managers that have made the things gone well there, because Cocoa Board have put in wax in their ears. I'm saying that Cocoa Board don't even care about a single tree in this country. Let us ask COCOBOD. Every year, they come out with a number of seedlings, millions of seedlings to give out to farmers to plant. Let us ask COCOBOD that do they have even a monitoring team to monitor these seedlings that at the end of the day, this is where the seedlings is going to. No. COCOBOD made we aware that it is an economic situation. A farmer can choose to destroy his cocoa and plant rubber. And this is what is happening now. When you come to Eastern region, as I'm speaking to you now, it is raining. Excavators and other things are in the cocoa growing sector. They are cutting down cocoa trees. COCOBOD is doing nothing about this, all because we made a pronouncement and an organization sent a letter to Parliament for Parliament also to pass a bill to protect the cocoa trees. And it's unfortunate that the leadership of this country, some don't think about the heart of the country, that is the cocoa. I will say and praise the Minister of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu-Afriye. He was the only person that we sent our report to that saved most of the cocoa trees in this country. If it is not him, like there would not be even a single cocoa tree in this country. And as I'm speaking to you, most of the cocoa farmers are like they've planned. Even today, they held a meeting, and then they are saying that they are no more interested in the cocoa again. They are going to cut down their cocoa trees and go and venture into a new thing.
Now since you are in it, and we cannot lose the fact that cocoa is our second highest earner of foreign exchange, what do you think must happen to ensure that farmers do not go on to cut down their trees, and to also, in a way, COCOBOD to stop this annual borrowing to buy your beans?
COCOBOD, they are just interested in the beans just to make money milking farmers. COCOBOD are not serious by educating farmers to cut down their cocoa trees, because COCOBOD even made we aware. When Hackman was the chairman of COCOBOD, he told us that it is an economic situation. COCOBOD don't care. There's a series of reports that I personally have been to the COCOBOD telling them that this is the situation. Ghana will lose our cocoa. There's bad thing that has been happening. COCOBOD have put wax in their ears. They don't want to listen. Okay. And as I'm speaking to you, and I said, it is the Dr. Fuyakoto, the minister, that is even saving the situation.
And I'm grateful. Thank you that you find time to join us here. Farmer General Nana Obuade is president for the Concerned Cocoa Farmers Association. Now, the Auditor General has cited the National Disaster Management Organization of causing a 500,000 financial loss to the state with the recruitment of unqualified personnel and placing them in higher ranks. There's more in this News Desk report.
The 2021 accounts of public boards and organizations noted that 2019 and 2021, management of NADMO recruited some staff who were either without the required basic certificate or qualification, but were inappropriately placed at higher ranks, which resulted in an overpayment of salaries totaling 492,000 Ghana cedis to them. This, according to the Auditor General, contravenes Section 7 of the Public Financial Management Act, which requires that a spending officer of a covered entity shall ensure the regularity and proper use of money appropriated in the covered entity. That normally, according to the report, constitute a loss to the state, which could have been used to employ more people to reduce unemployment. Management of NADMO, in a response, said the appointment letters were issued to the staff at NADMO head office, which they did not have control over. The report also reveals that an employee of NADMO at the Mampon office in Ashanti region, Austin, Amwaben Edward, and 5 others who were granted an 18-month study leave with pay ending 23rd April 2019 to study in Netherlands, failed to resume duty after the leave expired or communicated to management for an extension. Despite the failure to resume duty after a series of letters had been written to remind them, management validated and approved the payment of unearned salary amounting to 114.4 thousand Ghana cedis between the period of May to November 2019. The report directs the national coordinator of NADMO to ensure the money is paid back or he is surcharged.
Now, for years, President Akufo-Addo completely ruled out any idea of reviewing his government's flagship policy, the Free Senior High School program. The president's stance followed pressure from the opposition NDC and other civil society organizations who asked government to take another look at the policy after food shortages and financial constraints in senior high schools across the country. We'll hear from the president shortly, but first, listen to persons, including former President John Mahama, who had called for a review of the program.
The review is to improve. Even the president, with the current implementation of free SHS, at a point in time, you need to review a policy and see if you're meeting the targets or not. And I believe that he can see that he's not meeting his targets. I mean, the congestion in schools. I mean, recently a school went on demonstration because they say they can't take the congestion anymore. The reduction in contact.
Where was this?
Well, you are in the meeting. I'm sure if you Google, you'll find there's a school that demonstrated because they said they were congested and they couldn't take it anymore. I mean, the contact hours with teachers has gone down. I'm sure you've seen some of the media posts. There was a parent who said his child was moved from green to gold. They went to school. The first week was sports week. The second week was something. They started learning in about the third week. And after two... Oh, you did? And in the fourth week, they said they should go back home. Yeah. And they should come back in March or February or something. I mean, yeah, how are you going to expect a child like this with such few contact hours to be able to make it? And then aside from that, instead of improving the system, you go and buy past questions and distribute to children. This is the first government I've seen go buy past questions and distribute to children.
Out of the 2.3, 70% is just feeding. There are other aspects of the bill: uniforms, school cloth, exercise books, etc., etc. Feeding alone is about 70%. Okay. So, because of our economic situation, because there are liquidity issues, what is happening is that the Ministry of Finance is unable to raise funds to fund this 1.3. I mean, to fund both the feeding and the non-feeding aspects. So fund delay is normal. Now, whilst fund delays for other aspects of the budget, until the fiscal budget can be managed, those affecting feeding can hardly be managed because the children are in boarding houses. So the delay in funding has caused suppliers who say their funds have been locked up, for some being owed as far back as September last year. Their funds have been locked up, so they don't have money to keep supplying a particular school or a particular group of schools.
And the Ministry of Health, for the teachers and nurses, takes so much from the government budget. If you add debt, you have practically nothing. If you are making a road, you have to go and beg for money. And of course, nobody is happy. Everybody wants higher salary. They want, and there's almost an automatic increase. Everybody who comes from school of education, college of education, has to be employed. So that structural rigidities in our system makes it such that there's very little room to move. And despite all the advantages of free SHS, it has even worsened it. Because now about 7.5 or 6 billion immediately goes into it. I think that free SHS is wonderful because if it was there, I would have gone to secondary school, not teachers' college. So, but we have to look at it again. I think that there are certain schools which we should make them autonomous and fee-paying, and people will go there, but then make sure that there are good community schools for everybody else.
Now, you have former President John Mahama, former GIMPA Rector Professor Stephen Adai, and Executive Director of the Ghana Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare. We can also hear from President Akufo-Addo completely ruling out the idea.
Senior high school policy is a policy for the development of our country. We're not going back on it. We're not going to have it reviewed. We're going to continue with it. We're going to improve on it. We're going to develop the infrastructure so that we can develop the human capacity of our country. That is the position of the new patriotic party and of its president, Akufo-Addo. No review today, no review tomorrow, no cancellation.
All government policies are criticized, and there is a defense of the people of policies. It is intimidatory and leads to a culture of silence. A radio station is currently running a campaign against free SHS. During the last election, I got the clear impression free SHS had been endorsed by all political parties, and all we needed to do was to keep improving it.
Indeed, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had shifted positions on the matter, from stating that parents have to pay something to opposing calls for a review, and back to saying a review is on the table following Ghana's latest engagement with the IMF.
Issue of free education, I don't think it's something that any of us can compromise on, and true, it may be that there have to be changes in the way in which we are administering it. I can't take my child to Achimota or Dogon and then leave him or her and drive away and can Ofori-Atta not pay anything once I can pay for 10 people. You need to begin to get the data to then be discriminatory and who pays and who doesn't pay.
Mr. Speaker, we shall not compromise on President Akufo-Addo's commitment to giving all our children the opportunity to be educated from kindergarten to university without the ability to pay being a hindrance. Free secondary and tertiary education are not under review. We'll continue to fund them, we'll continue to improve them, we'll continue to create efficiencies.
Review is constantly on the table, and it's just to make sure that the appropriate education is given, that wastages are eliminated, and that, it goes to give us value for money.
Well, we can now hear from President Akufo-Addo, who now says he thinks a broader conversation on the free senior high school policy is in the right direction.
One of the things that people are calling for, and at some stage or another the government has to organize itself to respond to it, is this whole, they talk about reviewing SHS. I think we should have a broader conversation about the incidence of education on our national development and therefore also on our budgetary and public sector contributions to national education. Because so many of the issues that you have brought forward, even though there are single items, all feed into the broader conversation of how much money is a society prepared to devote to education in all its various ramifications, whether it's talking about the feeding of children, whether you're talking about allowances for nurses and for teachers, we're talking about the level of monies that are devoted to scholarships, public scholarships. All of this should form part and parcel of that discussion. Already we spend considerable amounts of money on education in budgetary terms. I think you're aware of it. Higher than virtually all the countries on the continent. But nevertheless, as you can see from your own recital, it's still, if you like, inadequate. Yeah, because if it was adequate, it would deal with the amount that is spent on students for the feeding program. It would deal with the issue of training allowances. It would deal with the issue of scholarships. All these are the direct result of budgetary constraints that there are in the system. Already there are some who are eager to curtail some of these important initiatives like the free senior high school policy. There are powerful forces in the society that are against it and who are insisting that education should be what your parents can afford. And they should all contribute to paying for education. And the same at the tertiary level. But I have a different view. I think that it's a public good. The benefits of it for the nation, for the society are obvious. You talk about, for instance, the ratio of enrollment.
Now, the frozen food company that was recently at the center of an investigation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, La Bianca Company Limited, has once again been cited in a joint news investigation for falsifying the content of their containers, leading to underpayment of taxes running into millions of Ghana cedi. Some of the containers impounded at the premises of the company were declared as sardinella fish instead of for chicken. This strategy is used by unscrupulous companies to defraud the state.
You go to school with people, they copied during exams, they didn't know anything. You come because they are related to the board chairman And you who did well, you have not gotten your promotion.
Workers' Union of the Ghana Revenue Authority on the 24th of July 2019 venting their unhappiness with the political interference in their work, which they say is contributing to the revenue shortfalls in the country.
The same people who came in through political appointments have their children as clearing agents who are using exemptions to clear goods. Is that not conflict of interest? Tell me. And as officers, the policies that you brought, I mean, you don't expect me to import things and clear for government to get revenue. How many days must you advertise? Quarters that might not have passed through these areas.
The accusation by the staff of the Ghana Revenue Authority struck a chord with me. So on August 1, 2019, in a sting operation after the launch of Operation Collect, Name and Shame, a team from the Customs Staff Association and 2 other labor unions stormed the premises of La Bianca Company Limited to examine contents declared in the name of Ajax Company Limited and Whitestone Frozen Foods Limited. The objective was to verify the contents of 72 40-footer containers at their premises, following a tip-off that the companies involved have given false information to customs officials.
No, please, can you just come and put it here? Open the rubber. Yes. You know, this is full chicken. Full chicken. That's it. Full chicken. Whole chicken.
After hours of search, the team found out that the frozen food companies have concealed boxes of full chicken instead of sardinella fish they had stated on their declaration forms. On 30th July 2019, one of the frozen food companies, Ajax Company Limited, gave misleading information about the content of some 20 40-footer containers. In 2 separate shipments made on 26 July 2019 with varying declaration numbers, Ajax Company Limited paid a duty of 168,731 cedis, 68 pesos, and 166,731 cedis, 68 pesos, totaling 335,463 cedis, 36 pesos. By virtue of misclassification of content of the containers, Ajax Company Limited ended up underpaying a tax amount of 377,232 cedis, 2 pesos, which should have gone to the state. Whitestone Frozen Foods Limited also declared to customs authorities as sardinella fish instead of chicken, contents of at least 5 40-foot containers with varying declaration numbers, heavily protected by armed police officers. Documents cited by Joy News shows that a container with commodity code 03035300 and 03035400 with varying declaration numbers paid a duty totaling 851,102 cedis, 5 pesos, underpaying a tax amount of 807,915 cedis, 12 pesos, which should have gone to the state. Ajax Company Limited and Whitestone Frozen Foods Limited paid 1,019,834 cedis, 18 pesos, instead of 2,204,174 cedis, 32 pesos. So in just these shipments, the two companies put together defaulted up to the tune of 1,185,147 cedis, 32 pesos. In the heat of the moment during one of the days of the investigations at the Tema Fishing Harbour, my cover was blown at the premises of La Bianca Company Limited by armed officers of the Ghana Police Service who were providing security there. Together with an associate of La Bianca Company Limited, they cursed and threatened to assault me. Armed officers from the Customs Staff Association quickly shielded me and escorted me to a nearby vehicle to prevent what would have been a brutal assault. The associate of Whitestone Company Limited, who led the threat and verbal abuse at me, ended up confessing to the crime of misdescribing content of the containers and threatened to expose another importer who he alleged is also evading tax.
So I swear to God, we're going to bring him down. Why is he? We also have it. Go and investigate that guy who is giving you bad information. He's also running a coastal. Conflict of interest. You won't sit down for this one. And now I'm catching the national security. Now you come to me from GRA. And somebody is also defending from GRA. You think we're going to sit there for this to happen? They are all Ghanaians. Who sit there for somebody to...
After months of investigations, Joy News uncovered that by virtue of misdescription of content of containers, the companies involved underpaid 4.6 million Ghana cedis. Following the revelation, Joy News confronted a representative of Ajax Company Limited with documentary evidence to inquire why the company gave misleading information to the state. His explanation was that the shipping company is the one that committed the error by deploying containers with content other than what they had purchased.
Email to shippers for them to explain how they came to misdescribe the product. And then also they told me that we are no longer in business until we had explanation of the circumstances. As we sit here, we cannot tell how they possibly describe a whole container load. Describe a whole container load as something else.
Meanwhile, attempts to get a response from Whitestone Frozen Food Limited have proved futile. Months of attempts to get a top hierarchy at the Ghana Revenue Authority to comment on the findings of this investigation has so far not yielded the desired result. A junior rank officer at Customs who spoke with me on the condition of anonymity said,
persons with political backing are doing it. I mean, deliberately misdescribing content on their containers, and they are doing so with brazen impunity. The difficulty with most of us is how the law is applied. Perpetrators are allowed to walk after paying the difference when they are caught. That, for me and most of my colleagues, is not deterrent enough because many of them get away with it.
The Customs Act of 2015 is, however, clear about what should happen to a person who falls foul to the provisions. A person who, quote, furnishes or causes to be furnished any information relating to any matter under this act, which the person knows to be false, commits an offense, and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 2,500 penalty units and not more than 7,500 penalty units, and any goods in respect of which the act was committed is liable to forfeiture to the state. Section 2 of the Customs Act 2015 also states that where the full amount of duties payable under Section 1 is not paid, quote, the person in contravention shall incur a penalty of not more than 300% of the amount not paid in addition to forfeiture of the goods, where applicable. And B, the person is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 200% of the value of goods in question, or to a term of imprisonment of not more than 5 years, or to both. Portions of this provision were triggered when, after investigations, customs officials presented documents and evidence of misdescription to the companies. There was, however, no evidence of forfeiture of the goods. According to customs officials, leakages like the one uncovered in these investigations are among the drivers of the country's failure to generate enough revenue at the ports, making government's ambitious Ghana Beyond Aid agenda ever Herculean.
You know, this is full chicken. Full chicken. That's it. Full chicken. Whole chicken. Whole hand. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So what are the right processes that importers must adopt at the Port of Ghana? We have been joined on Zoom by Samson Awingobet, Executive Secretary, Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, of the Ghana Importers Association. Chief, thank you so much for joining us. How do you declare your goods at the port?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. I don't know, is my audio okay?
Very, very okay, sir.
All right, good. Well, if an importer imports into the country, one's supposed to, as a matter of fact, if you are self-declarant, your in-house agent would process your documents through the ICOM system. You will have to do the entry. You have to, in the entry, you will have to describe what exactly you are bringing or what exactly you are going to clear at the port. And so if it's mobile phone, it is mobile phones. If it's computer, it is computer. Is it what type of computer? Is it a desktop? Is it a laptop? And so you need to give a categorical description and attach receipts, invoices, waybills, any documentation that customs desire to be able to inform them to assess you and give you the tax bill for you to pay. Now, you push it through the ICOM system. They will have to, someone will sit at the customs, they have to go through classification, evaluation, and come out with the duty bill. Now, if assuming without admitting that the issue at hand that you are discussing now, the agent through the officer who's supposed to do the entry do not.
Hello,
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Good. So it means that if the custom comes out with a classification and you get it there, at the point of clearing at the port, your custom officers are there. They will have to open the container and then sight. Sighting means they can decide, okay, bring down some of the, maybe 3 lines down, 4 lines down, 5 lines down.
Mr. Awingobet, your phone is on mute again.
What you have actually described. Yes, I'm here.
Yes, sometimes your phone.
Somebody kept on calling. Yes. So they have to cross-check. They will inside and they will drop the boxes. They will open the container, drop the boxes, open the boxes, and see. Then they ask you to load back. Before even that, at the clearing of when the cargo arrives in the port, assuming it's at MPS, and many containers go through the MPS port terminal. This container, when they are leaving from the ship site to go to the terminal or to go to Golden Jubilee, GPH River Container Yard, it has to go through the scanner of MPS. So when it's scanned, the images is there, and I'm sure if you go to when you go to Golden MPS, you have custom officers mining the scan. I'm sure you have national security there as well. Then you have, of course, the ICOM department that is providing the solution there. When a container is being scanned and all container details are being scanned, the images is there, and they have to feed the admitting that the person did misdescription when they were doing the BOE entering.
Good point there, Mr. Ringovic. Hold for me there. I think you've made a very good point there. Hold for me. I'll come back to you. But this action has attracted a lot of condemnation from a lot of anti-graft campaigners. Mary Ada is the programs director at the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and she joins us on phone with some thought on this. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you think influences importers to do what they do?
Thank you very much. Good evening to your viewers and good evening to Samson as well. Unfortunately, it is difficult for me to conjecture what would make anybody who is importing chicken to describe it as fish. It is pure greed, and sometimes this is influenced by perhaps people around who would definitely tell you can go through the system without being caught. And so in the pursuit of maximizing profit, people are looking for all ways and means to circumvent the system, and they do it in collusion with, unfortunately, sometimes people who should know better. As Samson has indicated, there is a rigorous process, and this description thing would come in even before the goods come into the country. And so if the person has described that I am importing fingerlings or I'm importing chicken, perhaps drumsticks, perhaps wings, back or something, and the person is describing it as the back, it means that there is a certain opportunity they know they can't circumvent, and they know they will get away with it to maximize their profit, knowing that people are around who would help them to do so with impunity. And so it is no surprise that business people continue to do that. And listening to the documentary, you would hear that one of the owners was very frank in saying he believes it is another person who is trying to bring them down. And if he goes down, others will also go down because they know the persons are doing similar things.
Interesting. So with this, what must really happen to keep this under check?
Fortunately, we have systems in place that should take care of this. And for this documentary in question, we know that the OSC has already treated some action. So this documentary only comes to confirm the demand for a thorough examination of the system, so that those who have gotten away with it in the past, if they are caught in the net, they would be sanctioned. But then also, we know that there are issues if it is misdescription. Most definitely, the investigation should be geared towards Yoku and even customs itself, which has regime of checking this. So their investigation should interrogate this, establish the issue, and if people are culpable, to be dealt with. That is the only way we can get some change. If people are not sanctioned, if sanctions are not implemented.
Thank you very much. That's Mary Ada, who is with the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Now, Health Minister Kojo Manu says beyond a single document he reviewed, he has not cited any other authored by former Deputy Minister Kaysel Atoforson authorizing payment in a controversial ambulance scandal. A 2.3 million euros loss is alleged to have been caused to the state through the actions of 3 individuals, including Dr. Kaysel Atoforson. Mr. Manu on Thursday concluded his testimony in court, insisting if the NDC administration had inspected the vehicles prior to shipment, the nation would not have lost money. Joseph Akabule reports.
30 ambulances received by government from supplier Big C Trading Company Limited have been described by the Attorney General as defective and not fit for purpose. A 2.3 million euros loss is said to have been caused to the state as a result of the transaction. The Health Minister is the Attorney General's 4th witness. Lawyers for Dr. Forson, led by Dr. Abdulaziz Bamba on September 1, continue with their cross-examination of the Health Minister. The Health Minister first admitted that government did not perform one of its obligations under the contracts. This was the requirement of a establishing letters of credit 120 days after the contract was signed. This notwithstanding, the minister insisted the government was to send a delegation to inspect the vehicles before they were shipped into the country. This arrangement, he explained, was to ensure that the vehicles to be received were fit for purpose. Failure to carry out this inspection, he argued, is what created a situation where defective vehicles were delivered. He, however, revealed an agreement was reached with the supplier to remedy the situation. Some medical equipment imported to be fitted into the vehicles, the minister revealed, were still at the port. He explained his ministry did not have funds to clear them, pointing out that additional costs could have been avoided if the clear terms of the contract were followed. A letter written by Dr. Forson to the Bank of Ghana remains a key part of the trial. It was a request for letters of credit to be established. The minister had on many occasions argued this letter was what set in motion the advance payment, even though the agreement required payment upon delivery. Mr. Manu admitted while concluding his testimony that beyond this document, he had not seen any other written by Dr. Forson authorizing payment. The case is back in court on January 10, 2023.
You're still watching the Joy News Prime.